Ron Miller, guitar guy, guitar friend, guitar geek, principal guitar geek. How many guitars are you up to now?
I've probably got about 10 currently.
Okay, so you've whittled it down.
Yes, the most I ever had at one time, back when I was a young lad and was living at home and didn't have responsibilities, I probably had about 20 at one point.
Okay.
But I would, sell two and get a better one, that kind of deal, just kind of work up the food chain.
Yeah, like that Paul Reed Smith.
Yes.
So welcome guitar nerds. This is Ron Miller. He's from Nashville. He does all kinds of stuff in and around Nashville. He's going to give us insight on what it's like to be in the Nashville scene. He's going to give us insight what it's like to play guitar like Ron Miller does, because I can't play guitar like Ron Miller does, and he swears that he can teach me how to play like him in 5 minutes, which I don't believe, but I'll go with it. So what's going on in Nashville now?
Things are starting to open back up. There's been stuff open for the last several months.
Mm-hmm.
We did not. I think you guys in Pennsylvania have had a little tougher time of it than we have here, and because Nashville is so geared to tourism, people are still coming regardless.
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of made it that it had to be open. Schedules were limited for a time. The amount of players were limited for a time.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is starting to return to normal at this point.
Okay. And is there any illness down there?
Yeah, I mean, it's like everywhere. I mean, there's been people that had it and unfortunately people who have passed away from it. But, luckily, thank goodness, I haven't been affected so much by that. Everybody around me has been safe and healthy. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, good. We can't lose you.
Yeah.
We can't. The world needs you. Seriously does. So how'd you get your start in music and in guitar and all that kind of business?
Well, my neighbor's dad played in a weekend band. Maybe like typical weekend guys, maybe once or twice a month.
The glad crab.
I'm sorry.
The glad crab.
Yeah, I think that was he was probably before that time, but
Okay.
yes, I have played at the Glad Crab many times. For people who don't know, that's a little restaurant, small bar kind of thing that everybody at one time or another goes through. It's a rite of passage.
Yes.
But anyway, he had. I still remember this. He had a Gretsch amplifier, which I don't believe that Gretsch actually made it, but it was branded as Gretsch, and it was tubes. And, I mean, of course it would get hot and you could like kind of smell it and, the tubes glowed. And I still think it's one of the coolest things,
Until they stop working.
Yes, until they stop working.
Yeah.
So so that's where that kind of the no one in my immediate family played,
Mm-hmm.
but because he played and his son played some, so that's we were hanging out using his stuff.
Yeah. How old was this?
Oh gosh, that would have been probably maybe 12 or so.
Okay.
Somewhere in that vicinity. I started taking lessons for the first time when I was 12.
Who was that with?
Randy Smith was an early guy. This was all at Campbell's Music, which I know you're very familiar with in York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But Randy, and then we were chatting about teachers. Of course, Ray Eicher.
Yeah.
So that that was kind of the beginnings of that.
Mm-hmm. So you studied with Ray. Was it Ray? You're talking about Randy Stewart?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Randy, that's all right. Okay,
My
Randy's,
old age is catching me.
yeah. Yeah, he just retired this year because of COVID. Randy, for those of you who don't know, is the coolest guy ever.
Yeah,
I've
and there was
known him for
actually a
like
guy
35 years. He is like he's like flat picking guitar, banjo, mandolin, triple threat.
yeah,
Completely he's he's cool. He's just a cool dude.
yes.
He's a good
So
hang. He's a good hang. He
yeah,
has
and there was
he works
actually
at
a guy before him, but I don't recall his name. I remember he had a black fancy ovation because back in that time period, the ovations were kind of like the
sought after guitar.
yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did you start playing with people?
Well, the very first garage band thing, I we actually sold. You got to understand the area that we grew up in, but it was very common. There's lots of volunteer fire companies in that area.
Mhm.
Every little town has volunteer fire
Yes.
companies. So in order to raise money, they would every summer they would do sub sales.
Yes.
So we basically copied the idea and we sold ham and cheese subs to buy our first PA cabinets.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah.
That is a yes. That is entrepreneurial.
Yeah, and there again, that was early on, 12, 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
We we could not find we had the rest of the band, but we could not find a bass player. So that the neighbor that I told you that lived across the street, we had to use his bass player from
Okay.
his weekend band to actually play our first little house party gig.
Okay. What kind of music was it?
Probably horrible.
It's-
No, it was just smattering of country stuff and some classic rock stuff. But it was we were kids and it was I mean bless their hearts they paid us, but it was probably pretty brutal.
yeah. They probably have a different. It was probably cute.
It,
You were
it
you
was,
were probably
it was
you were 6'5" then. I'm guessing.
yes, I was. Well, I was 6'3" when I was born, and
Yeah.
then I just grew a little bit after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So then that was not Hourglass. When did Hourglass happen?
No, Hourglass happened after pretty shortly after high school,
Okay.
and that was the first legitimate band that actually played weekends and made money pretty regular.
Yeah.
Um, that was Mary Ott, who has
Yep.
since passed away.
Yep. Mary's a gem. She was a gem.
Yes, she was. It was a very good. She was obviously a bit older, but she had already been out playing and had jobs. So it was a good. Me and Brian Peepo both went through that situation.
Mhm.
I know you know Brian.
Yep. So anyone else I would know in Hourglass?
I don't. Do you know Tina Shaw?
I've heard of her. Probably through
Okay.
you.
Yeah, she was in that. I don't know if that you would have known anybody else.
Okay. And that became like elements of that became Junction.
Well, Brian and I, I mean, I've had a lifelong friendship and musical. Brian and I play together. We've over the years whenever we possibly could.
Yeah.
And we still, have remained friends. So yes, Brian and I became the beginnings of what would become Junction.
Okay. And Brian was a bass player, drummer, and he did some guitar, but he was namely bass and drums.
Yes, and when I first met Brian, he played drums in Hourglass because Mary played bass guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what did he do in Junction?
In Junction, he played bass.
Okay. Who was the drummer?
Dave Pletcher.
Okay.
And I don't know whatever I haven't talked to Dave in years and years. I don't know whatever happened to him.
Yeah.
Denny Ayersman. and same deal. Denny has remained, I talk to him sporadically.
Yeah.
Dave Miller, who I think you may know from in town.
Okay.
And Ann, who would later become Brian's wife, was in the band. So that was a good little, good solid band and
Southern
really
rock and country.
Southern rock and country.
Okay.
You
So
know,
that was music all around the house with you when you growing up?
Say again?
Was music all around the house when you were growing up, or was it?
Well, like I said, nobody in my family played,
Yeah.
but my mom and dad loved Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn.
Okay.
If they came on TV, the house stopped.
Okay.
So it was very much, they were very much, they loved, old school country music.
Yes. Which is the stuff to love.
Yeah, Merle Haggard,
Yeah.
George Jones, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right. So now, Junction, that was around 93. So then you get a chance to play with the Susquehanna River Band.
Right. That was those guys had won like the Wrangler Country Showdown. They were they'd been a long-standing band, but they were at that point, they were, they had some pretty good success. I kind of joined more towards the tail end of things.
Tail end of things. You were there for 5 years, so.
yeah, I was there for 5 years. And that was a band that did, Maryland, Delaware, Tennessee, East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just local. It was
regional.
It was regional.
Not even that regional, because if you're going to Tennessee, that's a time zone away.
Yeah. We used to play down in Bristol, which that's a beautiful area of the country, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was did a 5-year stint with them, which is where I kind of, that was the step from being a weekend
warrior
situation to playing more. There was at that time you could still do places that were 4 or 5 nights a week.
Yeah. So around that time you had a store, I hear.
Yeah, you hear.
Yeah.
We opened up it was called Carson Music, which Carson is my son.
Yeah. Who is now 7'2".
I'm sorry?
Who is now 7'2".
Exactly. Yes, he's surpassed me. He used to come up to me and stand on his tiptoes and would not quite be as tall as I am, but those days are long gone.
Like Dad.
Exactly. And yeah, somebody that your viewers might know actually taught at my store. That would be you.
Yeah.
So for you guys who don't know, I've known Rod for probably 25 or 30 years at this point.
30 years, 31 years.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah. So that blows my MySpace age. With everyone thinks I'm 29. Yes. So I remember Ron. He also taught at Stephen Nicholas Music a little bit.
Yeah, and I've taught on and off over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it for a little while, and then I'm not. You're very prolific at that, and because you play multiple instruments, you stay busy.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I enjoy it, but if there was ever live stuff to be done, or anything like that, then I would focus on that first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's kind of been the mode of operation for that.
Do you still play pedal steel?
No, I haven't played pedal steel for back when there was a point where we were trying to buy a house when I was married the last time, and we needed some money to put into the house project, so I sold the pedal steel.
That sounds like a country song.
Exactly. Yeah. So I haven't touched a pedal steel in probably, oh gosh, 15 years.
Alrighty. Yeah, I hear it's a hard instrument. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lifelong, you can do whatever you can dream up or think to possibly do on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been really fortunate.
You gotta be on it. You gotta be on it to keep your skills together.
Yes. It's a very, I've been fortunate down here. Ray, who we talked about, Ray played some pedal steel, and
it should be noted that Ray is my favorite Pennsylvania, Maryland pedal steel player.
Yes.
I had very few instances where I played with him, but that is the stuff I enjoy most from Ray, because it was just a joy, because it made everything that was happening around him sound legit, and that's the highest compliment I can give a man. So
yes. Yeah, and so that was he was the beginnings of my pedal steel stuff. After I moved to Nashville, there's some guys here. There's a gentleman named Doug Jernigan. I used to tell, I was fortunate enough to get to do some gigs with Dougie, and I would tell him I got the best seat in the house because I get paid to stand beside you and watch you. There's a guy named Gary Morris, who Gary I think has moved to Florida now, but Gary played with Brooks and Dunn and Dwight Yoakam, and just a bunch of who's who kind of things. So there's some really, really magnificent steel players here. Unfortunately, the music is kind of somewhat steered away from the traditional stuff.
Yeah.
So there's not as much pedal steel on most of the recording stuff these days.
It's a pendulum move.
Yeah, and it'll come back around.
Yeah. Everything's a pendulum. Everything. If you live long enough, you see the trend. you see the trends. It's like the only thing we pray is we live long enough.
Exactly. Yeah. And that blue baby blue leisure suit you got in your closet will come back in style sooner or later.
Yeah, I'm not that old. Yeah, that is you're older than I. Yeah, that would be 1970s. So I have a white one. Yes, I did play in a funk band for many years. So.
But you do have one. Yeah. That's the important part.
I think it's badass. Mine is badass. I'll wear it anytime I get a chance. So, all right. So now we're at Carson Music, and then you got a chance. You were making trips to Nashville, and you start meeting people and networking, and you're getting your name out there past the Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland borders. Okay. So then you got a chance to move to Nashville, and then tell us your story there.
Yeah, well, there was a guy named Ray Moser who I'm still friends with. He was DJing at a club that we played in the River Band, and he knew a guy that he had gone to college with, and he would tell me, "Hey, man, I know this guy. He's a great singer. He's going to get a record deal." And he was telling him, "Hey, man, I know this guitar player." So he was the guy who put us together. So yeah, I was playing with the River Band. We were in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I got a call this was over a weekend, and I got a call that I had to come to Nashville to do an audition at the label, because the guy that I was working with, they were going to give him a guitar player. Obviously there's no shortage of guitar players in Nashville.
Yeah.
So the label was going to give him somebody that they were already familiar with and had used for different things. And he was like, "No, I want this guy." And they kind of like, he took some flack for it, so I'm eternally thankful for that he stood up for that and stood his ground. So I came into town on a Monday and went and did the audition and got the gig.
Yeah. Did you audition not for him?
But no. Him and I went. Yeah, we had to go to the record label and play for the president and the A&R people at the record label.
Okay, so why are they giving him flack? Because they heard what you do.
Well, no.
Initially they gave you play.
This was before that because I believe, if I remember correctly, they were going to use one of the guys that had been out with Reba McEntire.
Okay.
So they were kind of like, well, this guy's a great guitar player, just use him. Like it's a system, he was already in the loop thing.
He's already matriculated into the.
And I'm sure, I don't know who the guy was, but I'm sure he was a very accomplished and fine player.
Yeah.
So when he started talking about me, they were like, "Are you out of your mind? Like, we don't know this guy."
Yeah, he's an unknown.
Yeah. So luckily that was kind of where I got the first big break, so to speak. And then I went and did his radio tour with him.
Okay.
And we did for the West Coast stuff, we went and played Caesar's Palace.
Mm-hmm.
And they flew a bunch of the radio people into Vegas.
Yeah.
So, that was the beginning of getting to do some, stuff on a bigger scale.
Yeah. Travel and leveling up.
Yep.
Leveling up. So how did that end? Everything ends at some point. So
that lasted probably about a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years. We did a bunch of radio things. Was when all over the country, because when the way that works is when you're trying to break a new artist, they send you out to the radio stations, especially in country music, because if country radio doesn't pick you up, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of stuff. We did a swing down the East Coast through Carolinas and Florida. We did Texas stuff. We did stuff on the West Coast. So that was about a year's worth of, going out for a while, coming back, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He was on a label, which was part of Universal, but I don't know all the backstory but at one point the label closed up. I don't know exactly what happened. At the time, he was on the label, Dolly Parton was on the label, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band was on the label. There was a really successful songwriter at the time named Trace Bird.
Okay.
And the whole thing just one day was gone.
Yeah.
For all of those people. So I don't know what, like I said, that's not something I have the backstory on, but it just disappeared.
Yeah. Horrible. And some of those people could rebound because, like Dolly's not earning.
Obviously, that, in that world, that was a hiccup for her, but it was for a lot of the people. And it happens. I mean, the music business is business. I've known lots of people in town that are really talented people, and they would record something and get shelved.
Yeah, and they're working construction.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Yeah. So from that first artist, you was it Nashville New Faces? Explain to me what Nashville New Faces were.
A buddy of mine named Dale Burry, who had his own little small record label at one point, he got hooked up with some people out of Germany, and they made a plan together to basically it was 2 female artists and 2 male artists, singers, and then a backup band. So we took that. It was in Nashville. It really wasn't anything, special. But in Germany, it was really cool because those people have a very deep love for, real traditional country stuff and authentic American music.
Yeah.
So it was funny because we rehearsed here. And then we all, took the whole entourage and flew over there, and it was kind of like being a rock star for a
Beatlemania.
Yeah, it was a country Beatlemania.
What's funny about American music is it's like the real stuff American music has always been appreciated across the seas, across the ocean, more than it has been appreciated in America. 'Cause, like, we have the Muddy Waters, we have the Chuck Berrys, we have the Buddy Guys. Back in the day, they were doing menial labor. But, like Muddy Waters was working for Chess Records as a janitor. When
Yeah,
the Beatles were coming up. Okay, when the Beatles were coming up. So, um, the Beatles and Eric Clapton and the Yardbirds and all these people who we love is your music that you're forgetting.
yeah.
You have forgotten. You have
It's
forgotten because
it's kind of ironic, you know.
yeah. So we're looking for a renaissance or like that was a Germany, the German thing, or that was a renaissance kind of moment where
Yeah, and you know the bands that we did some really cool stuff over there. We did some huge shows, and we did a broadcast where they brought in a remote recording truck. I've never been able to get a copy of that, but I would have loved to have had a copy of that because the recording truck was every bit as nice or better than any studio I've ever been in.
mhm.
You know, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So that lasted for like 2001, 2002.
Yeah, we did two runs. We did you know, a run each year. You know, we
Okay.
did it twice.
How long were the runs?
A couple of weeks.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't you know, we weren't over there for months and months, but it was a couple of weeks at a time. Mostly based out of Berlin,
Okay.
and then we would travel from Berlin. There was a club that was kind of home base in Berlin, called the Western Saloon, and we did that. And then we would travel to different cities. You know, it was kind of funny. This is, you know, I had never seen a Sprinter before. And we actually had some Sprinters that they had used from the Michael Jackson tour.
What is a Sprinter?
Well, like the big fancy vans.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I was thinking Beatlemania. Somebody was chasing you with.
oh, no. No, but it was really cool because, you know, they just really have a real love for it and appreciation for it. So, you know, it was fun to be a rock star for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then did this lead to casino? The casino work?
No. After
completely different.
that ended, I'm sorry.
That's a completely different gig.
Yeah, and I joke about that, but like I spent, you know, after that period of time, then I spent like I don't know 7, 8, 9 years with different artists doing casino things. So I did a lot of casino work.
Was this a day job? Was this a legit like, or this is something that you could support yourself totally, or this is a part of your?
No, the casino at that in the early couple first years of that was basically a full-time job.
Okay.
You know, there again, things have changed drastically in that world, but back at the time when that was going on, you know, you could book and go in and play a whole week.
Yeah.
You know, so basically it was a 5, 6, 7 day run.
Yeah.
And I even had one occasion where we did some down in Mississippi where we were there for 3 months straight.
Okay.
You know, those things have kind of, you know, just like every other business, things come and go. And, you know, most of those places now are, you know, just do weekends or, you know, the 5 day, 6 day a week thing is not really, that's kind of a thing of the past for the most part.
Did the alcohol, like I know in Pennsylvania, I was never old enough to remember the good old days when people got paid to play. we get paid, but what we get paid is pays for guitar strings and heartache. And so in other words, because of the DUI laws, which are real, and I understand why. I'm not saying DUI laws is like when they start really putting a hammer down on DUI laws, that a lot of people would not go out. They wouldn't drink and drive anymore, which is good. But
Right. Yeah, changed the scene pretty drastically. When I was in high school in Pennsylvania, the drinking age was 21, and in Maryland it was 18.
mhm,
So of course, everybody from high school would go to Maryland, go down, go to the bars,
mhm.
drinking, whatever. Unfortunately, after a period of time, there was enough, traffic accidents and deaths from that eventually I think everybody changed it to 21.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Does
when we
DUI
were
laws
young,
affect everybody?
I'm sorry.
Like across America, you've been playing in casinos in a lot of places. So did that have any effect on it, or was it something else? It's just a change in changing what people
Well,
listen to, and
like one of the things I used to work a lot in Tunica, Mississippi, which is southwest of Memphis.
okay,
Um, and when I started working down there, it was a very thriving place. But what happened is, more states around it became kind of hip to, hey, we can make money on this. And, it used to be that was the only game in town for maybe a 4 or 5 hour radius.
yeah,
And as other states opened up their own casinos, then it took away from, people would go somewhere closer to where they were actually from.
hmm,
So that definitely changed the picture. Even the drinking and driving thing changed back when I was doing, junction days.
yeah,
I don't remember what year that was, but between that and that was also the time period when, unfortunately AIDS happened.
yes,
So that changed between those two things. That changed the mentality of people going out to party quite a bit.
hmm,
Obviously nobody wanted to be sick from it and nobody wanted to die of drinking. So,
yeah,
those two things hurt live music for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yep. So the Casino World Tour, and then that eventually came to an end as as I said, the pendulum. Then you just started focusing your energies on downtown Nashville.
Yeah, I still go out occasionally and do something if it's worth doing, but the idea of bouncing around most of those gigs were typically van and trailer kind of gigs, because you're not working on it's not a national act level budget,
Mm-hmm.
so the bouncing around in a van and a trailer, as you get older becomes less appealing.
Well, you had a very serious accident.
Yeah, we were coming back from a gig in Oklahoma at one point, and had a wreck with a semi truck. So that kind of changed that changed some things also.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not the glamour that it once was.
No, and when people come into whatever club you're at in whatever state you're in, and they see things set up, and you're playing, and they think, man, these guys got the Cat's the life, they don't see the 10 hours that it took you to drive there, and the set up time, and they only see a piece of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's not as glamorous as what it sometimes looks like.
Mm-hmm. So what are you doing now in Nashville? Say some of the.
Well, I got my own band at this point, which is just a downtown and local. We'll travel within a couple hours if something comes along.
Mhm.
That's called the Roadhouse Roosters.
Okay.
Very cool thing. Good players and good people. It's kind of like it's kind of set up like the Doobie Brothers. Because everybody in town, like for instance, the girl that plays keyboards with me, Haley Sullivan, she works for Pam Tillis.
Okay.
So if Pam's out touring, obviously she's with her.
Yeah.
A guy you may remember, John Giles. You remember John from Great Train Robbery?
Absolutely do. He was a
Well,
what did he later became a bus driver?
well, he drives bus for Clint Black now.
Yeah.
But John played all those years with Train Robbery, and then he played for Leon Russell, for a period of years, and then he wound up, getting the gig driving with Clint. And so whenever he's available, when Clint's not out, touring, then he also plays in the Rooster thing.
Okay.
So
he's more kind of rock, is he not?
Yeah, John. It's a very cool mix of stuff. We do a lot of kind of Southern rock stuff and classic rock stuff.
Uh-huh.
A handful of country if somebody asks for it, but
yeah.
It's kind of primarily. I always wanted to do a guitar band, so it's me, and when everybody's there, it's me and John Giles. Yeah. I got a guy named Steve Egan playing guitar also, who's fabulous.
Yeah.
Haley's on keys, Sean Baker's on drums, and I got a guy named Michael Deering playing bass with us now. So it's a very good band. Everybody's really, I'm blessed to have really talented players, and everybody's good people.
Yeah. What's it like? What is the bar scene like? The bar band scene like in Nashville?
Well, when things are running, 100% normal, it's crazy. I mean, it's not like any place else that I've ever been. The town, basically, the way the clubs down there are set up, they run a shift from, it's 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon till 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and then 10 o'clock to 2 in the morning or 2:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it's kind of a Las Vegas, it doesn't stop. I mean, people that come there
around the clock.
Yeah, pretty much. And downtown, the town has grown so much. I mean, there's probably 4 or 5 times the amount of clubs that were here when I first moved here.
Okay.
So there's a lot of work, which is why I keep telling you need to move here.
I'll take you up on it. So, we talk about this. Okay. It's that's a possibility.
Yeah.
So at least a couple months out of the year, maybe.
Yeah. And there's always, finding, there's tons of musicians here. It's a great town for, if one door closes, something else opens.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're out there chasing it, there's something to be had.
And it's not just country music that we're talking about.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. There's a matter of fact, there was a shift in the traditional country guys. The area out around Opryland Hotel has kind of become the home of that, kind of more of the traditional country music.
Okay.
Downtown has become kind of anything goes.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first moved here, if you played rock stuff down there, like, they didn't dig that at all. And you weren't welcomed with open arms.
Yeah.
Now, like we were talking about the pedal steel discussion, it's sometimes hard to find a band that has a pedal steel down there now.
Yeah. Yeah. So how common is it to see people, that industry people, when you're playing in these places?
Most of the times that would be, it's kind of a rarity. I mean, they perpetuate that, a lot of people think that when they move here, if they start playing downtown, they're going to get seen and discovered.
Yeah.
Which
is more likely than York, Pennsylvania.
Yes. I mean,
there's energy there, but yeah.
But it's still a, most of the things, if there's somebody that's really talented and, maybe somebody will catch wind of it, but the real business deals don't necessarily happen on Broadway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Broadway is the main tourist drag where all the clubs are for the most part.
Okay. Okay. So the number one kind of thing in Nashville these days is probably tourism.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we have the Titans, which is the football team,
Yeah.
and we have the Predators, which is the hockey team.
Calvin's brother was a Titan. My friend Calvin.
Yes, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So now your influences. You were talking about your music scene. Who are you grateful for? Because you're people that brought you up,
Well, as far as
mentoring and that kind of business.
yeah, the back home thing. I mean, obviously Ray was a fabulous teacher.
Yes.
And he's a great guy. I still when I come back in the area, I try to get to see him and talk to him and thank him.
Mm-hmm.
You're also in that group, by the way.
Thank you.
There was a guy named Charlie Larch.
Okay.
Charlie played with a band called High Noon back in the day when I was, coming up. Charlie was a great player.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy named George Kaiser who played with the Susquehanna River Band before my tenure.
Okay.
George was a fabulous player.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of local guys up there, who were fantastic players, just never, never moved away from the area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those guys, then the guys in Baltimore, the Baltimore, Washington area, of course, there was Danny Gatton and was a huge influence on a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Now, I never met Danny, but I did meet some guys who had taken lessons with him over the years.
Okay.
There was a guy named Bryant Lithicum from down there, and there was a guy named Bob Hume.
Okay.
And, the Baltimore area, like I said, back in that time, that was a 6-7 night a week. Those guys had house band gigs. So those guys were important. Down here, it's the coolest thing because, I mean, you can go see Vince Gill play with the Time Jumpers.
Okay.
And by the way, Vince is a very nice guy.
That's cool.
There's a guy named Andy Reese that plays with the Time Jumpers. And,
Who are the Time Jumpers?
Well, the Time Jumpers are it's local guys, but it's really, really good Western swing music.
Okay.
And kind of jazzy, country, Western swing, jazzy kind of stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Andy's fabulous at that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Look, if you go to Guitar Center here, I've met Peter Frampton at Guitar Center.
Okay.
So it's not commonplace necessarily, but it's like you never know who you're going to run into. I walked into Brian Setzer one day from the Stray Cats,
Mm-hmm.
just coming up the street on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
So the chance to get to see, Jack Pearson.
Yeah.
Jack, for anybody that doesn't know, like
he was an Allman Brother for a minute.
He was an Allman Brother for a minute, and just one of the nicest. The guy's got a ridiculously huge, like you can watch him play and he never runs out of licks.
Okay.
He's that guy.
Yeah.
But just as humble and as kind and nice a person as you'll ever meet.
Is that the norm? Is that the norm for the people down there, or is he kind of the exception?
Well, the thing about being here, if you're halfway kind of in tune with things, you figure out really quick that there's guys here that'll hand you their lunch.
Yeah.
Or hand you your lunch.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are, how much you've studied, how much you practice, I mean, there's just guys here that are freaks of nature.
And knock you off your pedestal.
Yeah. So you always, remain, humble and try to learn. I was a little quick story. I was watching an interview uh, with Vince Gill, and the guy asked him, like, have you ever been in a position where you were, like you were over your head? And he relayed a story about playing with Sting. That, they used to do this country crossroads things where they would pair a country guy with a rock guy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And he's like, man, and he also was talking about like Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
So even, somebody on that level, those guys, you're just better off served to stay humble because.
Well, I agree.
Yeah. And there's there's every year there's a new batch of guys show up, young kids, who are just ridiculously good. I mean, for somebody who's maybe 20 or 22 or whatever, half of our age, and you just look at them and go like, I mean, God, I still can't play like that. How did you learn that in 20 years,
Yeah. Or 10 years.
Or 10, yeah, literally 10 years.
Yeah. They had YouTube. We didn't.
Well, it is I mean, back when we were coming up, if you wanted to learn, you went and took lessons. Now everybody just goes out and sits on their phone, and there's a lot more stuff accessible.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So so I'm gonna mention this briefly, and I want you to explain some of your chicken picking technique. But I hear you're doing something with a person from Tower of Power, and you don't have to give us all the details because that's going to be a future interview.
Well, that's okay. Yeah. Well, I can tell you.
Tell us what you can, because as I said, I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Yeah. Well, the band is going to be the project is called Charles J with just a J initial, and the Conquistadors.
Okay.
And it's a guy out of LA.
Yeah.
And I got lucky enough to get hooked up with him. I've flown out a couple times and did some sessions out there, and that's the connection. Carmen Grillo, who was the guitar player for a long time with Tower of Power.
Yeah, I've seen him many times.
Yeah, the project is being done in his studio.
Mm-hmm. So students of mine will know him because of that song I sent you last night that I said, if you don't learn it, I'm going to scream at you.
Yeah.
Because he's a great player, but I know he's a producer and an engineer and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and another interesting thing about him that you may not know, he apparently did quite a few sessions as a backup singer as well.
I did not know that.
And I'm talking like Village People and Donna Summer, and he has a pretty long. Huh?
How old is he?
Carmen.
Old. Last time I checked, he didn't look that old.
No. Well, he has. He would probably laugh at this, but he's got the Dick Clark thing, where like he's one of these guys that like, he's aging really well. He's I don't know. I'm 56 and he's probably my age or older. I don't know exactly, but he's got the Dick Clark thing. He looks like he's 25.
Yeah. Days and buttermilk.
Yeah. So the Charles J thing, it's a really, really cool project. I'm excited for that to kind of. It's in basically at this point we're in mixing and mastering mode.
Yes.
And it's a really.
It is new for you. It's new for a lot of people because and without giving away without giving everything away, you're combining genres.
Yes, and it's going to be very cool, and I think the potential for it is huge.
Mm-hmm.
There's some, I'm kind of the, obviously the electric guitar thing, doing some kind of country stuff and doing some, some kind of Santana-ish kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's combining ranchera music, which is what country music is to America. Ranchera is to Mexico.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's got elements of that, elements of Latin stuff, elements of country stuff. It's just kind of a really unique and new mix of things. So it's going to be really exciting to see where that goes.
Which is the coolest kind of stuff for me. And I told many, if anybody ever pays attention to my blabbering, it's all about the mix. It's all about the mix. It's like, if you just learn 3 Green Day tunes and then you start your own band and you start writing songs, you're going to sound like Green Day. But if you've taken all this stuff, that's the ideal for me. Taken from all these different things. That's where the new stuff comes. That's where innovation happens. So
yeah, and you've always been, I mean, just to let all your viewers know, I mean, you've always been that way. You like funk, you like rock, you like jazz. You're always drawing from whatever, wherever you can learn something from, which is very good for any student.
Combine them.
Right, and that's kind of what's going on with this thing, and it's really cool. I mean, I think it's I think it's, I mean, you never know, but I think it's going to do really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited for it.
I'm happy for you. Seriously,
yeah.
Because this is a Viking stuff. Okay, so now your guitar technique. You told me there's 5 minutes. It's not even going to take 5 minutes. The breaking point in your guitar technique. I remember. So Ron and I do guitar clinics like once every other year or something like that.
Whether we need it or not.
Yeah, well, we need to do more of it, and this will happen. I'm manifesting this. That we need to do more of this.
I agree.
Because there's complete synergy there. So now the deal is, just to typical guitar technique, you had limitations. You found that you had limitations. But once you started putting your fingers involved with it, like show us some of that. So what is it when you started working with your fingers and your pick? What happened?
Well, I was never, I would always watch guys who were just blazing fast pick speed, and I mean, everybody has their
strengths and weaknesses.
And that was not one of mine. It was a huge weakness. So in order to get any kind, and not that I'm a particularly fast player regardless, but in order to get any sort of speed, I started doing the hybrid, pick and finger thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I play, like almost every other note, one note's picked, one note's finger.
Okay.
And that just kind of became what works for me.
Mm-hmm. Where did you learn that?
Do what?
Where did you find that by accident, or somebody show it to you?
I really don't remember exactly how it happened. I mean, it just kind of evolved into that's the way I play.
Okay.
It was like I said, it was probably out of a necessity. Now, like, I'm not good at thumb picking.
Yeah.
But I kind of do I guess you would be like a Jerry Reed kind of style, picking fingers.
Yeah. Well, the Chet Atkins or.
Well, the Chet thing is the thumb pick thing, which is that's a whole other animal of its own. I can't do that either.
Most people can't. There's probably half a dozen people in the world that we know that is their jam.
Which, by the way, anybody that wants to look at that should check out Tom Bresh.
Yes. Is he related to Chet?
No, Tom was Merle Travis's son.
He was related to Merle Travis. I knew it was.
Yeah, he's related to Merle Travis. And Tom actually lives here in town, and you know, I've got to see him live a couple times. He's fabulous.
Yeah, I might have a book of his.
Yeah,
the Merle Travis book or something.
You know, there again, you know, another example of like, you know, if you need a little dose of humility,
Yeah,
go sit with him for a while. You
Tommy
know,
Emmanuel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Tommy, you know, Tommy runs around town here occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've never run into him, but I know he's been in different guitar shops and stuff here.
Yeah.
I met Joe Bonamassa at a guitar shop here in town. Joe is a really, really just nice, normal guy.
Yes, that's the new industry standard. Don't be a jackass.
Yeah,
because nobody has time for that. Nobody does. It's like, you know, it's important to note. It's important to note. Part of what makes people want to play with you is it has nothing to do with your musical ability.
Yeah, the hang factor and just being a, you know, good dependable person. The days of, you know, partying and not showing up and all that kind of stuff really isn't accepted anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not to say there isn't exceptions to that, but as a general rule, you know, that's not what they're looking for these days.
Yeah. Yep. George Jones is no longer with us.
Yeah.
So show us the Travis some of that hybrid picking.
Sorry, I don't have this up high enough. So pretty much all of that is, you know, every other thing is basically, you know, one pick, one finger.
Yeah. Okay, so guitar nerds, I'm going to tell you this right now. We're at the end of our interview. I'm going to have a private interview with this man, and it's going to be 5 minutes long, he says, and we're going to work on some of that stuff, the chicken picking, the hybrid picking. We'll share each other. I want to do this real soon with you, because
yes, that would be awesome.
Always respect you, and you know this. So
well, it's likewise.
Yeah,
you're one of the best folks on the planet, man.
Well, thank you. I agree. I think the same of you, obviously, because we vibe well.
Yes.
All righty. Thank you, Ron. And yeah, we're gonna have a part 2 sometime in the future, because of when your recording comes out and you're able to talk more about it and unleash it to the world. And we'll have that discussion. All right.
Yeah, that is awesome.
All right. Thank you so much. Seriously, it's been a joy.
Likewise. Thank you, man.
All righty. See you then.
All right. Good deal.
Bye.